Day 564 of the war in Gaza, and the IDF is keeping up the pressure on Hamas with intense airstrikes and limited ground operations. In Lebanon, the IDF also carried out an airstrike near Beirut, which eliminated Hussein Izzat Mohammed Atwi, a senior terrorist in the Jamaah Islamiyah terror group affiliated with Hamas. Atwi was responsible for numerous attacks on IDF forces in Lebanon. Israel also received backing from the new U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee on the issue of aid to Gaza. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has more.
7 people were reportedly killed in fresh overnight airstrikes targeting Hamas in Gaza. The attacks hit terror targets in Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, and Khan Yunis. Earlier, the IDF in Shin Bet eliminated a terrorist who had participated in the October 7th massacre. The killing of terrorist Ahmed Mansour came amid strikes on more than 200 targets in Gaza since the start of the week. Mansour was a member of the rocket formation in Hamas, which crossed the border and invaded Israel. During the war, he was involved in launching rockets toward Israel. On the ground, the Gaza division is operating in the Shabura and Tel Sultan areas of Rafah, where they destroyed terror infrastructure and located weapons, including grenades and other military equipment, and eliminated terrorist gunmen. In northern Gaza, Division 252 struck a group of terrorists hiding in a building containing underground rooms. The building, along with a number of sniper positions in the area, were destroyed. Meanwhile, the new U.S. ambassador in Israel says that pressure should be placed on Hamas and not Israel on humanitarian aid to Gaza. He rejected pressure from the World Health Organization.
This past weekend, Dr. Hanan Balki, who is the regional coordinator for the WHO for the Eastern Mediterranean region, called upon me to put more pressure on Israel to bring humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. I appreciate the message from Dr. Balki, and today what I would like to suggest is that we work together on putting the pressure where it really belongs, on Hamas, to give us the opportunity to open up those humanitarian channels.
Ambassador Huckabee explained what needs to now happen for aid to flow.
We call upon Hamas to sign an agreement so that humanitarian aid can flow into Gaza to the people who desperately need it. When that happens and hostages are released, which is an urgent matter for all of us, then we hope that that humanitarian aid will flow and flow freely, knowing that it will be done without Hamas being able to confiscate and abuse their own people by not allowing those resources to get to the people who desperately need it.
An Israeli team is reportedly in Cairo to discuss a new proposal that seeks a breakthrough in the negotiations with Hamas. Egyptian and Qatari mediators have reportedly come up with a far-reaching proposal in the Israel-Hamas negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage deal. The mediators are proposing a 5 to 7 year truce that includes a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza alongside a hostages for prisoners swap. BBC quotes a Palestinian official stating that the reported offer includes an extended ceasefire, a formal end to the war, a complete IDF pull-out from Gaza, and the release of all Israeli hostages and an agreed number of Palestinian security prisoners. The Palestinian source said that Hamas has expressed willingness to cede governing control of Gaza to another Palestinian entity, whether the PA or a new administrative body. The official said that the mediation effort is serious, and the Hamas terrorists have shown what was called unprecedented flexibility. Well, the Islamic Republic of Iran is once again buying time with negotiations. Let's take a look at the latest from the nuclear talks.
During the latest round of nuclear talks with the United States and Oman, the Islamic regime made grand statements about peaceful intentions, but their actions tell a very different story. As Foreign Minister Araghchi spoke of diplomacy and de-escalation, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei declared in a separate speech that the Islamic Republic remains committed to jihad and its proxy wars. While negotiations were underway last Saturday, a military parade in Tabriz featured calls for the destruction of Israel, and this weekend the regime unveiled a massive new mural in Tehran vowing to erase Israel from existence. Meanwhile, initial statements from the talks indicated that the U.S. will accept a nuclear program for civilians civilian purposes, but the regime is already enriching uranium at levels far beyond that, in direct violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. President Donald Trump called the talks very good, but noted that, quote, we need a little time, end quote, to see if Iran will comply. Many experts, however, warn this is a familiar strategy, stall for time while advancing illegal nuclear activity. Israeli officials have expressed concern about the nuclear talks following the report in the New York Times that President Trump waved off a strike on Iran's nuclear sites. On top of the nuclear talks, the regime is deepening its military partnership with Russia, including a new agreement to produce drones and missiles for use in Ukraine, and is set to meet with Chinese officials this week to expand strategic ties. Despite the diplomatic show, there are no signs the Islamic Republic intends to change its behavior, only to deceive, delay, and escalate its threats against global stability.
Well, amid rising tensions over Iran's nuclear program, the Israeli Air Force conducted drills simulating another round of fighting with the Islamic Republic. This as China conducts drills over the skies of Egypt. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The Air Force held a drill simulating another Iranian missile attack on IDF bases, the same ones targeted in Iranian strikes in April and October of last year. According to the Army, the exercise aims to boost readiness in case U.S.-Iran nuclear talks collapse. The exercise came following reports that the U.S. halted a plan to strike Iran to allow a chance for the ongoing talks between Washington and Tehran to strike a nuclear deal. Meanwhile, in a troubling development, China and Egypt have conducted a first-ever joint aerial training exercise. In a striking display of military cooperation, Chinese J-10C fighter jets took flight from an Egyptian airbase. The exercise was dubbed Eagles of Civilization 2025. The exercise will continue until early May. The Chinese People's Liberation Air Force delivered the fighters to Cairo in massive transport planes. Egypt is reportedly considering the J-10C as a potential addition to its air force, a move that could reshape the strategic landscape of the Middle East.
And now joining us to discuss the Iranian community's take on the nuclear talks, as well as the strategy of the regime when it comes to these negotiations, is Mona Jafarian, the founder of Femme Azadi and a leading activist in France against the Islamic Republic. Mona, thank you so much for joining us today. Just to start, can you tell us how you see the nuclear talks so far? Is the U.S. making a mistake to even negotiate with the Islamic Republic?
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me. You know, as an Iranian, and like a lot of my compatriots, we see all this talk with a lot of skepticism because, you know, for decades now, the West is trying to negotiate with the Islamic Republic. And for us, something is sure, that they didn't understand the DNA of this regime. Like when Khamenei and all the Islamic Republic are chanting like death to America or death to Israel, these are not just slogans. It's really an ideology. And the regime is just trying to buy time for now. You know, they're not seeking for peace. Khamenei is really on the brink, and he needs Trump to save him now. And for 4 decades now, we just see the Western country saving an Islamist, a terrorist regime that wants to destroy them. For us, Iranians, that's very hard to understand. And you know what? Everything is on the nuclear weapon, but this regime didn't need a nuclear weapon to organize, finance, and do October 7th. They didn't even need this nuclear weapon to organize all the terrorist attack on the European soil. And they even tried to kill President Trump in September. So, you know, it's not everything about the nuclear, and something is sure is that right now, Khamenei just needs Trump to save him. And we're just telling them, please don't do that.
Now, when it comes to the Iranian community, we've seen Iranians outside and inside of Iran standing against these talks. I know even on your social media, you have shared some of this, burning photos of the mullahs in Iran. Can you explain to our viewers why so many Iranians are against making a deal, really any deal, with the mullahs?
Yeah, in recent days, Iranian has been very demonstrative inside the country and outside the country. And we even have an hashtag now, and the hashtag is very clear: no deal with Khamenei. Because, this regime cannot be trusted. Just a few days ago, Khamenei was on TV and he was telling that I cannot have a nuclear weapon. Then if I accept that, they're going to ask me to stop financing Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi, and all my terrorist proxy. Even if I accept that, then they're going to ask me not to make new missiles. And if I accept that, then they're going to ask me to respect human rights. I refuse all that. So, Iranians always say something. Terrorists always tell you what they think and what they're going to do. But Westerners are so naive that they never listen to them. And everything is so clear. They're just trying to buy time. And they're really doing a global jihad. When they say globalize the intifada, that's exactly what is happening now in the Western country. And Israel is the last step for them before attacking Western country. And it's just like all the Western government are just so blind about it right now.
Now, how do you expect Europe to react to these nuclear talks and the most recent developments? What should they be doing when it comes to dealing with this regime now?
There's something we don't understand right now. It's just like Europe is missing in this negotiation, and they're the crucial actor of it. Why? Because first of all, we're fighting since more than 2 years to ask European countries to put the IRGC on their terrorist list. And even with all the terror attacks that occur on the European soil, they never accepted to do that. And the second thing that is very important for us is that UK, Germany, and France are still in the Obama deal. So they are the three only countries that can put the snapback on the regime, and the snapback means a maximum sanction in the UN without the possibility for the Khamenei allies to put a veto. That means that you can literally put all the sanction, and this sanction is gonna put this regime down. So they have this power now in their hands, but they're not using it. And last week, Marco Rubio asked at the television during an interview, they asked France, Germany, and UK to do it. But for now, they're still deaf and blind about all the demand that we're doing.
Well, let's hope that they can get it together and crack down on the IRGC and the terrorist activities of this regime. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank you for shedding some light on the Iranian perspective on these nuclear talks. Thank you so much, Mona Jafarian.
Thank you, Emily.
Well, a new projection released by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany shows the world will lose 90% of Holocaust survivors within the next 15 years. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian is in Krakow, Poland now, where dozens of survivors are preparing to march on Yom HaShoah this year.
Emily, right here in Poland, they are preparing for thousands of people to come for the International March of the Living, which will take place on Thursday. They are expecting more than 80 Holocaust survivors to come here to mark Yom HaShoah. Every year, the number of Holocaust survivors dwindles, with predictions that the world will lose 70% of its Holocaust survivors in the next 10 years and 90% of survivors in the next 15 years. The study by the group was released a few days before Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day, which will mark 80 years since the liberation of Nazi concentration camps throughout Europe. Emily, Holocaust survivors have spoken out for decades about what they went through. They have been the key to learning truly what happened during the Holocaust. And without their voices, generations might not know the truths of what happened during that time and the mass systemic killing of more than 6 million Jews here in Europe in those concentration camps. Their voices, their testimonies have been the key to understanding all of this. And we will continue to follow all of the coverage here from Poland. Emily?
All right, thank you, Shosh. Now, what strategies and technologies will Israel need to defend itself in a new Middle East? Brigadier General Jacob Nagel shares a rare behind-the-scenes look at the bold innovations and breakthrough defense tech that will keep Israel safe in an exclusive security briefing. From the labs of the Technion, Israel's premier science university, to the highest levels of government, this is more than strategy. It's about protecting lives and securing Israel tomorrow. Scan the QR code on the screen to view the entire briefing video. Find out how technology will protect Israel. A global day of rage against Israel is planned for today, with pro-Hamas groups calling for mass protests worldwide. In response, Israel's National Security Council has issued a warning to Jews and Israelis abroad, advising them not to display Jewish symbols or participate in demonstrations, citing concerns of violence and escalation. This comes amid surging anti-Semitism on U.S. campuses, where the federal government is currently cracking down on civil rights violations against Jewish students at universities like Columbia, UC Berkeley, Penn, and Harvard, which had $2.2 billion in funding frozen, and is now suing the U.S. government instead of reforming its discriminatory policies. However, the message from Washington has been clear: tolerance for Jew hatred will no longer be ignored. And now joining us to discuss the battle for sanity on campuses in North America, as well as this day of rage, is Mikall Codler, Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism. Mikall, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's begin with that campus situation at Harvard. We now see the university doubling down, suing the U.S. administration rather than stand up for their Jewish students and end the civil rights violations that they've really enabled. Do they have any claim here?
Well, I want to be very clear, Emily. It's, of course, not just about the Jewish students, about the lack of implementation of existing policies, not just at Harvard, but at universities across the world, in fact, enabling, as you've said, and fueling the tsunami of anti-Semitism that we have seen, and in many ways relinquishing the responsibility of universities to teach people how to think, replacing it with a very dangerous prospect of teaching students what to think, including at Ivy League universities.
Now, hundreds of student visas in the United States have already been canceled as a result of this crackdown on Hamas support on campus. And we're seeing a lot of pushback to these deportations or planned deportations, with claims of free speech being violated. Your take?
Well, the appropriation of free speech in this context as well, of course, free speech does not include what is clearly conduct. And as I said, the violation of policies and of regulations and laws of the United States immigration laws. But what we have seen across campus, including the pictures you're showing now, is clearly conduct. The appropriation of speech to utilize this in order to be able to sanitize what is a clear violation of action, not speech, of action of violence, of harassment, of bullying, of tremendous vandalism, of course, the barring of Jewish and Israeli students or Zionist students. You need not be a Jew to be the target of this particularly lethal strain of anti-Semitism. You need just believe in Israel's right to exist. That bars those students and professors and administrators from equal access to whatever it is that they are supposed to be doing, whether it's receiving an education or researching or publishing and so on, as I said, including at Ivy League universities. And the failure of democracies to actually understand that what has happened is the utilization of academic spaces, including with what we know of as billions of dollars in foreign funding that have impacted not just, as I said, the appropriation of free speech to sanitize illegal conduct, but actually that have impaired academic freedom at those very institutions.
Now, I want to discuss, before I let you go, this day of rage. How can it be in 2025 that Jews and Israelis and their allies, as you mentioned, are being told to keep their heads down and hide their identity in order to live? I mean, what is the answer to this? What is the solution to this?
Well, Emily, in many, many ways, that is precisely this false moral equivalence or cowardice that has enabled the tsunami of anti-Semitism on and since October the 7th, across spaces and places that were unable to, on and since that day, unequivocally condemn the rape, the burning, the massacre, and the continued not only abduction, but holding of 59 Israelis that were abducted by a designated, prescribed terror organization, instead allowing these demonstrations that support a genocidal terror proxy, but one proxy of a genocidal, murderous Islamic regime in Iran that instead would have demanded the freeing of Gaza from Hamas, of Yemen from the Houthis, Lebanon from Hezbollah and of the people of Iran from the Islamic Republic, the regime in Iran. And that is what this day of rage represents. It represents an Orwellian inversion of fact and of law that has actually recognized the strengths of democracies in many spaces and places, not just university campuses, but online, on streets, in international institutions, and so on, and has appropriated those spaces and places in this moral and legal inversion to enable and fuel and, I'm going to say, embolden the genocidal terror proxies of that Islamic Republic of Iran and of all other actually authoritarian regimes that have reared their ugly heads as a result.
Well, let's hope that the current lawmakers and those who are monitoring the situation will crack down appropriately on these terror groups. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank you, as always, for your excellent insight. Mikall Codler, Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Well, ILTV is proud to feature Blessed by Israel, a company that partners with small business owners and families in Judea and Samaria. Each product reflects a deep connection to the land and is crafted with care, purpose, and authenticity. When you choose these products, you're helping support those working hard to build a future in Israel's heartland. Let's take a closer look at Blessed by Israel and the meaningful work that they're doing.
As the world moves to boycott Israel, the people working to restore life to the biblical heartland face daily challenges. Blessed by Israel offers a simple way to support these efforts by bringing unique and beautiful products from Judea and Samaria directly to you. From the hilltops of God's land to your home, you can find exceptional items crafted by families and small businesses in the heart of Israel. With U.S.-based warehouses, Blessed by Israel ensures affordable prices and fast delivery. Choose from a range of products, including skincare, artisan flowers and foods, olive oil, tahini, honey, and much more. There are many great options for giving wonderful gifts to your loved ones. Visit blessedbyisrael.com to explore these products and discover the inspiring stories behind them. Scan the QR code on your screen to take part in fulfilling God's prophecies.
Well, an Israeli diver who was swimming at Olga Beach near Hadera was violently attacked by a shark. Eyewitnesses claim they saw pools of blood in the water, and earlier today, search and rescue teams did find the remains of the individual. ILTV's Devo Klein has the details.
A dramatic day in Hadera Beach unfolded when beachgoers heard a swimmer crying out for help. Eyewitnesses confirmed pools of blood around the victim, as video footage shows the moment the shark attacked. Multiple sharks have been spotted on Israel's coastline near the city of Hadera, where a coastal power plant have warmed the waters, making the area attractive for local sharks to roam. One unlucky swimmer faced the repercussions. Israeli police declared the swimmer dead after search and rescue identified his body.
Former hostage Ellie Sharabi has been selected as another one of the torchlighters at the official State Independence Day ceremony at Mount Herzl. Also announced to light a torch at the 77th Independence Day ceremony is NBA player Deni Avdia. Sharabi is the second former hostage set to light a torch at the ceremony. He joins Emily Damari, who was announced as a torchbearer yesterday. Sharabi, who returned from captivity in an emaciated state, losing 33 kilos or 66 pounds in captivity, will serve as a stark symbol of resilience and strength. NBA superstar Deni Avdia will also light a torch at the state ceremony. Avdia's achievements playing for the Portland Trail Blazers have solidified him as one of the greatest Israeli NBA players in history. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 23 degrees Celsius or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see partly cloudy skies alongside hot temperatures, seeing highs of about 33 degrees Celsius or 92 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you for watching.